All right, bang. Today is Thursday. It is April 17th. Welcome to the Dog Walk presented by Barstool Sports. Different kind of show today. Obviously, we talked about tariffs. I think it was a few weeks ago. Chief and I did a pick six or something like that. We talked tariffs. And obviously, two of the big things that listeners care about, at least from what I've understood on this show, is when they're going to buy a car and when they're going to buy a house. So I thought it'd be interesting to kind of bring in two specialists, two experts, two people within the realm of that business, and they're going to come on and kind of explain to us kind of what's going on as best as they can do, and they'll just let it roll from there. So first, it's going to be our friend David Hochberg. He's a mortgage professional out of Homeside Financial. So we could send it to Dave, and then after that, we're going to talk to Yossi from the car dealership guy. So here you go. Let's talk tariffs. Let's talk about the home buying market and talk about the auto buying market. So without further ado, let's send it over to David Hochberg. All right, so now I'm joined by my friend David Hochberg. He is the Vice President of Lending at Homeside Financial. You guys probably heard his episode we did in December. I'm going to try to mix David in here a little bit more now because it's weird. I've been doing this show now for 6-7 years, and so much of the audience has kind of grown up with me, and I've bought a house. Chief's bought a house. Dave's bought a house. We've all kind of bought a place. So today, David, welcome back. It's a little bit of a different topic, but I'm sure a topic that you've been speaking ad nauseum on, and it's tariffs.
Tariffs, yeah. How tariffs are impacting the mortgage market, right? Is that the angle that we're covering here?
Yeah, that's kind of what we want to talk about. First off, how are you, though? That was a long-winded introduction, but
doing good.
It's great to see you.
It's been about a week since we had you and the boys and your team and crew up at the Team Hochberg Suite at the Bulls game. That was fun.
Yes,
and had a good time up there.
That was a blast. So I guess I'll ask, because I plan on having someone in from the auto industry after this show on the same pod. That seems like an industry that's maybe getting affected a lot more than the housing market, but I could be wrong. So what is like the main thing that people need to know when it comes to tariffs and the home industry right now?
Well, here are a couple of things. When the tariffs were announced, the market tanked, right? That was about a week and a half ago. And typically what happens, Eddie, when the stock market crashes like we saw it, or corrected, I shouldn't say crashes, corrected as we saw it and saw a meteoric drop that we saw, that means people were pulling money out of stocks, and typically they would put it into bonds, which has always been one of the safest investments on the planet. Never bet against the U.S. Treasury. That didn't happen this time around. We saw mortgage rates shoot up 0.5 to 0.75 of a point in 3 days. The 10-year, everybody's hearing the 10-year. That seems to be the sexy thing that everybody's talking about. And why is it important? Because that governs basically what businesses borrow against and how businesses function in terms of forecasting if they're going to invest and how much it's going to cost them to finance. It also is a major indicator of mortgage rates. So on Friday morning, before all of this mishigas started, it was a week ago, almost 10 days ago, it was a Friday, I turned on the TV and I saw the 10-year was at 3.88. Eddie, we hadn't seen 3.88 since last October. And I text all my guys at like 5 in the morning. I'm like, hey, sorry for the early text, but you better get your sheets ready. We're finally under 4. And it's going to be a big day to start refinancing our clients that we put into rates in the 7s and the 8s. And we locked a ton of loans on Friday, Friday, prior to the tariffs being released. Then the tariffs came out, huge sell-off in the stock market. And traditionally that sell-off, that money would go into bonds. The bonds would be inundated with money. It would lower the yields because you didn't have to pay as much for the money as you did the previous day, and interest rates would go down. That didn't happen. The money went into other investments other than treasuries. So this was a direct impact of tariffs on the housing industry. The money went into money market funds. The money went into gold, and the money went into bonds in other countries like Germany. And the 10-year note, which typically would have gone down, shot up. And according to all the financial experts that I follow, Charlie Gasparino on Fox, everybody on CNBC, that freaked out the White House, and that made the president's advisors encourage him to put a 90-day halt on the tariffs, which he did. Okay. And that kind of calmed the market down a little bit. I'm looking at it right now. We got the 10-year at 4.32. So what does that mean for listeners, and what does that mean for your viewers? That means
Can you explain the 10-year number again, real quick, Dave?
yeah,
Because
the
obviously
10-year
I know the interest rate number. I know how that works, but
the 10-year bond is the bellwether bond that most businesses follow when determining if they're going to make investments. Okay, because it's a 10-year bond, and that shows the strength and confidence of investors in the United States economy. Okay, and what impacts the 10-year bond? Inflation impacts the 10-year bond. If we have inflation, then it costs more money to attract money into bonds, so you've got to increase rates. Economic uncertainty impacts the 10-year bond. Typically, you would go to, whenever there was economic uncertainty, you would drop a ton of money into the 10-year bond, and the yields would go down. What's happening right now is the confidence in the 10-year bond is not as strong as it was 2 weeks ago. The confidence in the U.S. dollar is not as strong as it was 2 weeks ago before all of this tariff talk, and you see the dollar weakening. A weakening dollar is not good for the United States consumer, white collar, blue collar, no collar. It's not good for anybody that's watching this. It's showing it used to be that the United States used to be able to be counted upon. This is coming directly from financial experts that I've watched. I've had CNBC on live stream for the past 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, just to get caught up on everything that's going on, because there's a lot smarter people than me that have got their pulse on this better than I do, and I'm just regurgitating what they're saying. The U.S. economy was the bedrock for safety, is no longer viewed as the bedrock for safety for a lot of people, and that is now weakening our dollar, and it has caused higher interest rates, and it's costing consumers and businesses more money to finance their projects. That's the bottom line. Okay. So a lower 10-year, it's cheaper to finance your projects if you're a huge business looking to finance a factory or finance inventory or finance an expansion into another territory, right? You need money, you need capital, so a lot of businesses have to borrow, and it's based upon the yield of the 10-year note.
So for the first time, when that dropped, usually the interest rates dropped as well. That didn't happen, is what you're saying.
Right. It did not happen. Typically, when you see a mass sell-off of stocks, the bonds are the benefit of that, because that money is usually dumped right in there. I was watching Larry Fink, who's the chairman, CEO, head of BlackRock. He was on CNBC, and he said it perplexed him as well. And the host asked him where'd the money go, and he's like, "We had $12 trillion, Eddie." Put your head around that, right? $12 trillion from the sell-off of the market go into money market accounts, because his clients, who are pretty sophisticated clients, didn't like what was happening, so they went to the safety of cash. They went to the safety of gold, right? They didn't buy treasuries, what they normally would have done. So we're kind of, I'm not trying to freak everybody out. I'm just answering your question, okay? And the tariff talk has companies spooked, right? I mean, look what happened with Apple, okay? Apple, Tim Cook's $1 million investment into the inauguration ball has paid off, because I read articles in Bloomberg that he was freaking out last week, trying to figure out, he's got a ton of product coming from China, and he got a special carve out on Saturday morning. Okay, so there are carve outs being made, which is causing this instability in the marketplace. And why should somebody, because I got criticized, like, I don't know blue collar people, and I've lost touch. I haven't lost touch with anybody. I'm talking about this in as many platforms as I can, because if your factory gets cut back and you're a blue collar worker, or you're a trucker, or you're a forklift driver, or you're a warehouse worker, and in the event that that factory is not producing as much goods or aren't bringing in raw material to make goods, they don't need as many truck drivers to haul that material. They don't need as many forklift drivers to take that material off the trucks and get it to the right stamping machine or manufacturing machine, and everybody gets cut back. So this is a major problem throughout the entire supply chain and throughout the entire United States economy. There's so much uncertainty right now that everybody's on pins and needles.
And as far as the housing market has it virtually kind of been unchanged though?
No, well, here, the only thing that's changed with the real estate market is the rates went up half a point. So there are still consumers out there buying homes. There are still consumers out there selling their homes. We had a couple of our buyers say, hey, we're taking a pause because I was going to pull my down payment out of the stock market. And the stock market, they lost a substantial amount of money in the past 10 days. So they're putting a little pause on that because they're a little freaked out. Some of our borrowers are directly tied to products that got hit heavy with tariffs, and they're a little spooked right now until everything sorts themselves out, right? It's not the entire market, Eddie. It's just a portion of the market out there is not as confident as it was 2 weeks ago. But people are still buying and selling homes. The rates that we quoted in the sixes 2 weeks ago are now in the sevens again. And it's just going to cost American consumers that are looking to finance a higher interest rate to buy those homes. Sound familiar? When you bought your home, you timed it perfectly, right when rates were taking off. So
yeah, I got smoked. Man,
but we refinanced you as soon as they came down.
I know, man. So they're back in the sevens. And do you foresee? I mean, because it's only a 90-day pause, right?
It's only a 90-day pause, and there were announcements today that China is not going to be taking Boeing airplanes, right? They're not allowing the airlines that anything that's bought in China. If you're buying airplanes, they're not going to allow Boeing to come in, and they're halting shipments of magnets and other raw materials to come into the United States to make products. So there's so much uncertainty. I just came back from a closing. We had a closing today at 9:00. A couple bought a condo. She's a cook, a chef, a private chef, and he works at an import company. Okay. I'm like, how's it impacting you? He's like, well, before the tariffs, if I was bringing in something from China, the two sentences with the tariffs. Now that same two sentences is now 71 sentences that I have to burn through to make sure what's going on and start factoring all the costs added and whatnot. So there's so much uncertainty that time will tell, right? I'm not trying to scare the hell out of people. I'm just saying we're a week and a half into it, and it's still fresh, and we're still trying to navigate through the waters. The good thing is that so are all the other bankers and all the other mortgage professionals out there. We're navigating through the same thing. So nobody's got a competitive advantage in this ever-changing world of tariffs.
And so you said it's still pretty steady though, like it hasn't dropped off these past 10 days?
No, actually we got 6 purchase contracts in on Saturday from buyers who we've been working with for either 1 month and a couple 6 to 8 months. We're out there hunting and finally found a place. 6 contracts came in, right? You go 2 weekends, we get nothing, and then you come in on a Monday and you get 6 of the, I think we got 39 pre-approvals out there. So 6 of the 39 found something. So it was a busy day yesterday navigating through this. So like, what do you think rates are? Like, listen, anytime the pendulum swings as fast as it did one way, we're like, let's just let this thing calm down. And the market is chilling off a little bit. I got the 10-year up right here. We're down to 4.3. We're up to close to 4.5 or over 4.5. So we picked up 20 basis points. So if we could just get down into the threes, if you ask me where we need to be in order to have a really big blitz of refinances to really save your followers money that bought a home in the past couple of years, once you see the 10-year down at like 3.75, if we could get down that far, then it's a jailbreak, right? I mean, that's when we're able to start refinancing everybody that purchased a home within the past 20 months, 24 months. That starts with the 7. We should be solidly in the 6s. So that's what we're hoping for. Again, we're just treading water like everybody else in the industry, trying to navigate.
Now, should people be kind of moving faster though? Because we were just talking in the studio before. My producer here, Lance, he's like, "Oh my, he's about to buy a couch, and his dad told him, oh, you better buy it now before you get that tariff tax on it." So, is there like, do you foresee it getting way worse where it's like, hey, now is the time?
Well, it's industry specific, right? So you
Yeah,
don't know which industry is going to get the Willy Wonka gold ticket to get out of jail, right? You don't, Tim Cook, that $1 million that he gave for the inauguration ball and the box seats for the swearing in of the president paid off, right? Saturday morning, he got all of his electronics exempted, right? I know you probably got a car guy coming up next. It'll be interesting to see what they're going to do with the car guys, right?
yeah,
Because and how that's going to impact them. I can tell you this: a lot of the wood and the building materials to go into building homes come from Canada. And talking to my builder friends, that's a 20% increase right there. So if you're building a house or you need raw materials to fix up your house or to renovate your house, your raw material inputs just went up 20%. Okay. And how's that going to impact everything? Well, it's going to cost you more money. Do some of your viewers have and followers have the money to cover the 20%? Yeah, but a lot of them don't, right? And they finance that on 20 to 40%, on 20 to 35% credit cards, which is not advisable, right? It's not what I advise, but how's it impacting everybody? You know, it's costing more money for the goods that you typically used to buy, right? And how's that going to impact inflation? Well, if you're paying more for goods that you usually paid less for, it's not good for inflation, and that's not good for interest rates, and that's not good for the Fed to cut interest rates, right? Because the Fed wants to see a decrease in inflation. And all of these tariffs, what are they doing? They're causing inflationary pressure on interest rates. So here, I know we got to wind it up here, but they taught us three things in business school, right? I went to business school at Northern Illinois University in beautiful DeKalb, Illinois. First thing they taught us was free trade is good. Second thing they taught us was tariffs were bad. Third thing they taught us was trade wars are horrendous. Okay. And what do we have? We have basically a trade war going on. And I fully understand that China's been jamming us for years. Okay. I fully understand that. But, the way that what's going down in carve outs and 90-day pauses, we're just hoping for a quick resolution so we could get back to some sort of free trade and some sort of normalcy, because we just don't know and the market doesn't know. And that impacts everybody, white collar, blue collar. If you're running around without a shirt on, it impacts you because your company is impacted that you work for. And if your company is impacted that you work for, it directly impacts you. So I know this might not be a big deal for a lot of folks, but they need to start paying attention to what's going on around them, because it does impact you every single day of your life. The only good news is that oil's been coming down, right? It's good for the consumer because everything that goes into fertilizer and farm inputs to harvest and plant crops, oil and the price of fuel is a major impact. So all you farmers out there, as the price of oil comes down, it's gonna relay into lower prices, which is going to be great for everybody. Challenge is the oil guys can't make any money with oil under 70, 60, $70 a barrel. So again, you got a big pull and push thing going on here. And there's so many different variables, Eddie. There's no simple answer. And, every time Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, stands in front of a camera, it looks like he's in a hostage release video, right? He's not a good bluffer. Okay. So he looks so uncomfortable. And then you got Howard Litnick, who's the trade secretary. He's telling you one thing, hey, we're going to build phones here in Illinois. Okay, that's great, Howard Litnick. We could build phones out in Edison Park, Eddie, right? Well, there's plenty of open factories out in Edison Park or on the southeast side of Chicago and Hegewisch, right? A lot of brownfields. Let's build a phone manufacturing company facility out there off the Bishop Ford and start building Apple phones. Okay, here's a challenge, Eddie. That Apple phone that costs $1,100 is now going to cost $3,500. And I don't know too many folks out there that you could say, hey, I love America. I'm all for it. I don't know how many folks are going to be willing to pay $3,500 for an iPhone. Okay. And I saw something over the weekend. There was a jean manufacturer out in California firing up the factory again. And he's like, listen, I could make only a certain amount of jeans here in California, or then it's not economically feasible. He's got to pay $16 to $20 an hour. He's got to import the denim, and he's got to import a bunch of different things that are now getting tariffed and taxed, because tariffs are a tax no matter what anybody wants to tell you or make you believe. The consumer's paying for it. And his other option is to make it in Vietnam, where he gets the materials from India, and he's paying his workers in Vietnam $1.70 an hour to make the same pair of jeans as he's making for $16 to $20 an hour in California. Now, are you willing as a consumer to spend, 10 times more for a pair of jeans? I don't think so, right? So there's got to be a balance. I hope they figure out what that balance is, and they figure it out quickly, because your followers are going to pay more money. They already are on their mortgages than they did 2 weeks ago. And if it's a short-term half a point, quarter point, 3/8 point higher now, and we'll just refinance them in 6-8 months when things get back to normal. I just hope things get back to normal sooner than later. And, Donald Trump's our president. I support our president. I hope he's successful, because if he's successful, everybody in the United States is successful. I'm rooting for him. And I just hope that this tariff talk and this tariff spinning dreidel that's kind of drunken right now and spinning out of control, they get control over it and it lands safely, and we could get back to somewhat of a normal market, because right now it's very turbulent.
It's kind of crazy how it almost feels like in some ways it's back to COVID. Remember when the lumber shot up and because of the supply chain? Now you're saying Canada makes a lot of our lumber. It's going to go up 20% again. So it's kind of wild how I don't even know if it fully stabilized ever, but it feels like it did to some degree. And now,
When we didn't have the reciprocating tariffs back and forth, and listen, this is the style of our leadership, and this is what they decided to do, right? You and I have no control over that. Mm-hmm. Okay, unfortunately, and we're just at the bottom of the hill with the 1 gallon bucket trying to catch 10 gallons of shit from falling on us, right? And that's what we feel like, right? Every day it's something different. And again, I hope that the resolution comes to an end here quickly. I hope that the United States has good trade agreements with all of our trading partners, and we could get back to normalcy, where the free trade opens up and the tariffs are fair and everybody's happy with the tariffs. This is way above my pay grade, right? I don't get involved with tariffs and international trade or anything like that. But right now it's very turbulent. You are paying more for mortgages than you did 2 weeks ago. People are still buying their homes. People are still selling their homes. Hell, we were having people buying and selling the homes, Eddie, when the rates were up in the high 7s, low 8s, and it was a fluid market back then. So I don't think the real estate market's going to collapse. Now, if we go into a recession, which is 2 straight months with declining GDP, and you won't find out you're in a recession until you're already 2 months after you've already been in a recession, that's going to impact people, because people will lose their jobs if we go into a recession. People that are working full time will get their jobs cut back. There will be less income coming in. And when people start seeing, I call it the Metro effect, right? When you get on a train on Friday and see the person that used to be in the seat next to you and the seats upstairs, and you see your buddies on the train on Friday going home, and then on Monday going back downtown, they're not there, and you're like, hey, what happened to Johnny and Sally? And they're like, hey, they got laid off on Friday. You start puckering your ass a little bit, and you start tightening your purse strings, because you don't know if you're next. I mean, that's just the mentality when layoffs start happening, and you don't want that to happen, okay? And the experts are predicting that, we're at between 45 and 50, 60%. Some experts are saying we're going into a recession if we don't get this tariff Michigas cleaned up quickly and settled quickly. So, and these are experts from like Goldman Sachs and Chase Manhattan Bank, Jamie Dimon's, even Jamie Dimon said it, right? A lot smarter than me. Okay, so here's a guy, Eddie, Jamie Dimon, and you and I have spoken about this. White Sox Dave Chief have spoken about this. I sent you texts on this all the time. Hey, check this out. This is what Jamie Dimon said. He sold $235 million worth of Chase stock last year. He never sold Chase stock before. Last year, he sold $235 million worth of shares of Chase stock. Warren Buffett last year was sitting with $340 billion of cash at the end of last year preparing for this, right? So when you've got guys like that, Eddie, those are the guys you got to follow, because those are the guys. And then when you have Jamie Dimon going on, Maria Bartiromo, can never pronounce that lady's name, on her show last week to talk to Trump through an interview with Maria, which is basically what he did. And then shortly thereafter, President Trump extended the tariff. Instead of being on Friday, he gave it a 90-day reprieve. I mean, you have to start paying attention. If you've got guys like Jamie Dimon spooked, you should be spooked too. That's all I have to say. I'm not trying to spook anybody, but if Jamie Dimon is concerned, I'm concerned.
Well, it sounds like you're spooking people, yeah, for sure. You don't want to be the scare, but sometimes you.
That's well, he went on and spoke the way he spoke. I didn't see the interview. But Scott Bessent and Harry Litnick, Trump's two top advisors, heard it and said, "Hey, if Jamie's on Maria's show, that we got to do something," and they put a pause on it, right? Yeah. So, all of this tariff talk, we're not going to flinch, and we're not going to blink, we're going to make phones here, and now there's a cutout to make phones over there now, so Apple got the reprieve. I wish they would stop talking and just get shit done. Is what I would like as a mortgage professional, just trying to get everyday consumers loans and trying to refinance folks to save money.
Yeah. Scary times, Dave. Where can people ask you a question or inquire about that loan?
Yeah. If they've got any questions, you give me a call, 855-563-2843, or they could go to 56david.com. I'll send you a link. I created a link specifically for the dog walk listeners and viewers that they could click on, so we can keep track of all your listeners and talk to them and bring them on later, so they could tell everybody how we help them in the future. And
you're not only Illinois, right? You're in other states too.
No, yeah, it's a great point. We're licensed in I believe it's 45 states now, and I have relationships over my 25 years of originating loans with friends that are now working at banks. They used to be mortgage brokers, but now they're working at big banks that are licensed in the other 5 states we're not licensed in. So if we can't handle it in-house, I'll soft handoff, great referral to one of my colleagues that will take care of your viewers and followers that need mortgages in states that we're not licensed in.
Nice. Well, let me know what that link is and whatnot. And reach out to David. He's the best. He did it for me. And not just Illinois. He's all over the place. So thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
All right, gang. Thanks, Eddie. Talk to you later, brother.
See ya. Hey, let's pause before we get over to Yossi, the car dealership guy, because I want to talk about Blue Chew. Have better sex with Blue Chew. Blue Chew is the original brand offering chewable tablets for better sex. These erection-enhancing tablets help men achieve stronger, harder, and longer-lasting erections for sexual activities. Guys, be ready when she needs it and get your first month of Blue Chew free. Great sex is a few clicks away. Sign up at BlueChew.com. Consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. Blue Chew tablets are made in the USA and prepared and shipped directly to your door. The best part is that it's all done online. That means no visits to the doctor's office, no awkward conversations, and no waiting in line at the pharmacy. Blue Chew won't stop until every man is bricked up like a brick house. That is the mission. Make life easier by getting harder and discover your options at BlueChew.com. And we've got a special deal for our listeners. Try your first month of Blue Chew free when you use promo code DOGWALK. Just pay $5 shipping. That's promo code DOGWALK. Visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. And we thank Blue Chew for sponsoring this podcast. And let's toss it over to Yossi. And whoosh. All right, so now I am joined by Yossi. He is the car dealership guy. Yossi, I had you on a couple of years ago, I think it was. We were still in the old office. You're the guy to talk to right now when it comes to tariffs as well. Has your world just been completely blown up by everything that's going on?
Yeah, we're in the media business, so it's been incredible, to be honest with you.
Any type of news or anything like that's good for you.
Yeah, but that tariffs is interesting because it's created a lot of uncertainty with dealers, just like it has with consumers. And so everyone wants to know what's happening, and we're uniquely positioned because people are sending us stuff and information that, any other outlet doesn't have access to, like dealers, right? Dealers are on these calls with the automakers who are telling them what they're going to do, and they're sending us in real time. And I'm looking at my team over here. I'm like, guys, maybe we should wait like 5 minutes before posting this so they don't think we're on the call and we get like our 100th cease and desist from the automakers. So that's been a funny experience.
Yeah, no, I bet. And it also, we should know too, it changes every day, right? Like everything consistently changes. First, it was like they approved the electronics. Then I think there might have been some automotive moving. What's the latest as of we're recording this on a Wednesday?
Yeah, it's changing every hour, truthfully. Yeah. Look, here's the latest. The latest is that no one knows what's the latest. But there are a couple things that we do know. Number one, most of the automakers have released, whether formal or informal guidance to their dealers, which obviously impacts consumers. And so I would tell you, like, the consensus so far is that everyone's holding off until May, which is only 2 weeks away. So it's not that far. But basically everyone's saying, hey, we're going to price protect dealers until May, which essentially means, it trickles down to consumers as well, right? So you're not going to pay more for these vehicles until May. We're going to absorb those costs in some way or another to make sure that we're maintaining our market share and, prices retain some stability. That's what's happening right now on the automaker level. On the more kind of macro level, I was just at an event 2 days ago with Senator Bernie Moreno, he's actually the first car dealer elected into the Senate from Ohio. And we had a very good conversation, and he was telling us about what he thinks is going to happen. And I'm not speaking for him, I'm going to speak for myself right now, but I'll just tell you that based on my take from that conversation, I came out pretty optimistic that this will probably be a pretty short-lived spurt. We're going to see pulled forward demand, right? So right now, if you go to the dealership, there is more demand. March was an incredible month for dealers. People purchased lots of cars. People's used cars went up in value because of that as well. Naturally, when people expect a new vehicle to go up in price, the substitute, which is the used vehicle, also goes up in price. So we have seen that. But it's unclear if it will persist because, again, is it pulled forward demand? And to what extent? And will May be a weaker month when we get some more certainty? And what's going to happen with consumer sentiment? So that's kind of the situation. No one can sit here and tell you right now if long term we're going to have these 25% tariffs on vehicles. And if we do, who will pay for that? Customers, dealers. Where in the value chain, right? Will those costs be absorbed? I don't know. No one knows. But what I do know is that we will, in my opinion at least, having spoken to smart people, there will be some tariffs for the long run, more than what we have today. So long story short, like there will likely be some, increase to vehicle prices one way or another. It's because it's going to take a long time for these automakers to, bring back these supply chains and manufacturing. These things take, years. So that's kind of the situation right now.
What does your gut say? Who's going to absorb all this?
I think all of the above.
Yeah.
I think consumers can't absorb much more, right? And again, I'm not an economist, right? Like economists could kind of tell you how this would really shake out, but consumers can't really absorb much more. Car prices already went up, like pretty much almost doubled since like 2019 till now. And so not fully doubled, but close to it. The point is, they've gone up a lot. And it's consumers are, sort of tapped out. In the meantime, while car prices haven't gone up in the last 2 years, insurance prices have gone up. Other costs have gone up in life, which have impacted consumers' ability to buy a car. Now, that said, dealers did have record profits about 2.5, 3 years ago, and they've been steadily climbing down since, and automakers as well. So based on what I think, my personal opinion, gut, is that the cost will sort of kind of trickle all the way, all across the value chain between automakers, dealers, and consumers. Unclear how much where, but I think it's going to get kind of spread out over time.
How much are the automakers panicking right now? Does there seem like a sense of, hey, this can't really happen, like this isn't real yet, or are they pulling the fire alarm all across these companies?
Everyone's reacting differently. I think that the reality is like they don't really know what to do because it's so rash and quick, and so they're just trying to instill some stability. Some of the automakers are smarter. They're like, hey, we're going to manufacture more cars onshore, like as in specifically, we're going to maximize our factories, right? There's things you can do to maximize the factory's output. You can run additional shifts and stuff like that in the US. So different automakers have different levers. Some are very exposed, like Subaru, super exposed. They manufacture a ton in China. Some are less exposed. But I think at the end of the day, the administration wants to bring back, final assembly in the U.S. That's like a fact. And, they want more of that in the U.S. And they're going to make some moves in order to make sure that happens long term.
That was my next question, actually. So who's the top three exposed? Who are the top three to kind of benefit from manufacturing coming back in the U.S.?
Yeah. So in terms of benefit, first of all, everyone's exposed to some extent. Even Tesla, who's building 100% of the U.S., they're also exposed because of their parts. In terms of the most exposed, it's probably the imports from Germany, from Europe. I mean, those brands are very, very exposed, right? Like Audi, Mercedes, BMW. Those are brands that I just don't see a world where those prices don't go up meaningfully. And then, like I said, you have Subaru as well, and you have others. I would say on the least exposed side, again, it's just a matter of how much less. But the domestics, the traditional domestics, are less exposed. They still have exposure. GM, Ford, they still have exposure for sure, but just less than the imports, like the German brands and whatnot. And of course, Toyota, Honda, Nissan, and all that. But they also do have a decent amount of factories in the U.S. So we'll see kind of how that plays out.
Do you see this as being realistic though? Like, are we going to be able to predominantly manufacture these cars in the U.S., or is this something like, because everyone keeps bringing it back to the iPhone, where how much it is to produce it, where they produce it now versus how much it would be in America, and it would skyrocket prices 3x. Do you view this as realistic for the auto industry?
Yeah, I mean, we build a ton of cars in the U.S. I just think trade agreements have disincentivized it and have incentivized to build also outside of the U.S. So yeah, I think for vehicles, I think it's realistic. I don't know about iPhones and stuff. I have no idea.
Yeah.
I couldn't say that, or like Nikes.
Yeah.
But I think for vehicles, I think it's very realistic that we're going to manufacture a lot more of it in the U.S.
And is this
look at Tesla, 100% in the U.S.
Yeah, for sure. But like you said, there are trade parts that are from outside.
Yeah, that's the thing. Supply chains are complicated, man. I've learned more about supply chains in the last month than I have in the last freaking 5 years.
Yeah, you're right. And it's kind of crazy too, the auto industry. Like it feels like they are on a ship that just won't steady, right? Like everything's rocky. They all pivoted to EV just from,
Didn't you buy? I remember you told me the last time I was on the pod, I think that you bought a Tesla and like you lost a shitload of money on it.
A shitload, and I got rid of it this January actually.
King.
Yeah. And it was right before all of this went down.
Yeah, I like Tesla. Like I like driving a Tesla. I think it's I think they're fun. But they went through a very difficult time with their customers, because what happened was, when the vehicles when they went up in price the most, and they also went down in price the most.
Yeah.
So that was a challenging time period for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean like I said, this had nothing to do with everything that's been going on with people fucking throwing rocks through the windows or anything. But I traded in January, and just because I don't know, I bought it the worst time ever. I bought in January of 21, and then in June of 21, The Illinois passed the tax credit, and then feds passed in like August that year. So I missed out on like a $12,000 swing. So
Crazy, dude.
yeah, it just sucked.
Yeah, you're going to see a lot more leasing with all this crazy stuff. You're going to see a lot more leasing. You're going to see people holding on to their cars even longer. It's been interesting to see, these ups and downs. Again, your used car in your driveways is probably worth more money today than it was 30 days ago. So there's a lot of these little, changes happening right now.
So would you recommend someone, like if you're really thinking about buying, would you recommend getting to the dealership before April is over?
It's hard to know. You know what I mean? It's really tough to tell right now. The majority of the people that are in the market are trying to buy sooner rather than later, because it seems like something will happen. But it's just really tough to know how it's going to play out exactly. So, look, I would say don't time it. Don't try to time the market too much here, because if you're going to rush a purchase, then you might make a different mistake there. If you're in the market, but if you are in the market, like, I also wouldn't hesitate. I don't think that there's any benefit to that. Like, I think if anything, if you're certain on what you want and all that, then yeah, just get it done, because the reality is May 1st, most of these automakers are not going to price protect their dealers any longer, which means any new inventory, new stock will be more expensive. So that's kind of the different forces at play.
So, I mean, yeah, so it's not going to go down, but it could possibly go up. So it kind of is in turn.
It could go down on the new side if things get resolved to a certain extent here in the next month, and we did indeed pull forward a lot of demand in April and March. Then you might see it go down in late May or June, because there are more new cars sitting on lots. And I'm talking about new cars right now, right? So that's the scenario where it goes down.
Yeah.
Where it goes up is where the tariffs take place. Even if they're temporary, prices immediately start rising, and that's the situation you're in. So that's kind of the bet you're making.
From talking about it and having conversation with other people, what's the most interesting thing that you've kind of learned about this whole tariff situation?
I think the most interesting thing I learned from Senator Bernie Moreno was just like how we got to this point, which there's really good reason for it. When you listen to the history and you really listen, it started with after World War II, when the world was in shambles, right? The U.S. won. Everyone was their countries were destroyed. The U.S. wanted to help them promote rebuilding. And this was sort of like a stimulatory way to do it. It was like, oh, right, we're going to trade together, and sure, charge me a little bit. That's going to be like a form of stimulus for you to rebuild your economy. Well, that was like 80 years ago or something, right? So we're in a different, there's a different world, just like a global order today, and that's just not valid anymore, right? These things do need to change, right? Like, I think that when you really listen and you pay attention to why these things happen, it really does make a lot of sense that this needs to change. I think where the jury's out is how does it change and how quickly does it change? That's where people are struggling. I don't think most business leaders think that the idea of these tariffs is like a bad idea. At least, smart long-term thinking leaders. But I think that where they're struggling is like the speed and the pace and just how aggressive it's been. Right. That's the challenging part here. So
yeah,
I'm overall, I'm supportive. I think it's smart for the country. It just needs to be done methodically.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's kind of the concern, right? Is like, did we let too much toothpaste out of the tube where it's going to be really hard in a grueling process to kind of get some of it back in?
I don't know, man. That's above my pay grade, but I think, I trust the administration. I hope they figure it out, and I hope we all figure it out.
Yeah, for sure.
We'll be fine, though. We'll be fine. I'm optimistic, dude. I think things are going to be great.
Yeah, I'm optimistic by nature as well. So I'm kind of with you on that, and I'm just so interested to see how it shakes out, because regardless,
well, keep you posted. I'll let you know.
Yeah, for sure. Because regardless whether it be like a couch or a car, people are sitting there wondering hey, do I buy now, or is this shit gonna go triple the price when I want to get it?
Yep.
All right, Yossi, dude, thanks so much. I know we had a lot of back and forth of trying to get this scheduled.
You have my number now, so
yeah, exactly.
it's easier to reach me that way.
It'll be easier. Anything else there that you wanted to kind of let people know before we sign off?
No, say what's up to my man Gilly. I wish he would make a cameo right now into the studio.
I know, right? He's judging a dunk contest downstairs right now. So
you know what's funny? So if anyone listening knows Gilly, again, I don't know if people listening to this podcast, know who Gilly is and stuff like that within Barstool and all that. But the point is, so I reached out to Gilly in 2016 when I was working at, in my dealership, at an independent car dealership in Philadelphia. And I was just looking to start kind of going to influencer marketing, which is what we called it back then. And I just, I knew of Gilly because I was from Philly. I knew who Gilly was. And I was like, let me just ping this guy. And so I DM'd him on Instagram. I think he had he probably had I don't know, maybe 100,000 followers at the time, maybe less. I don't know. So I was like, yo, Gilly, what's up? You want to come, you want to meet up? Maybe you could do some advertising together. So we met up and we ended up doing, we had working together for years. I mean, it's called Danny's Auto. But anyways, that was kind of how I met Gilly and we started doing stuff. And then 2 or 3 years after that, he had this podcast and it was growing like crazy. And I remember one day he comes to the dealership and he's like, Yos, he's like, I signed with Barstool. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. And this, by the way, this was like the first deal. This wasn't like the big deal. And so anyways, I just remember all these stories and he'll tell you about it. But it was like so crazy because when I first met him, he grew so quickly. He's so charismatic and talented, and he teamed up with Wallow. I don't want to, Wallow as well. Like they're both incredible. Anyway, so that was I saw firsthand his rise, and it's just super inspirational. I mean, he's killed it, and I love that guy. So.
Yeah, he's awesome. You saw him when he was just kind of a local guy. So to see his rise, I bet that was awesome.
Yeah.
Yossi, thanks again, man. At Guy Dealerships, your Twitter X account. Anything else?
Yeah. No, our website is dealershipguy.com, where we put out, insights about auto retail. So if you're interested or anyone in the industry, any dealers or any friends, tell them, hey, about Car Dealership Guy. They probably do if they're under the age of 60. If they're over the age of 60, they probably still heard of us, but maybe they don't listen every single day. So yeah, just Car Dealership Guy. Check it out.
Awesome. Yossi, thanks, man. I really appreciate you jumping on.
Thanks, brother.
All right. That's it, everyone. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We will see you guys next week.